Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel So Little Time, and my name is Karen. So today I'm going to be sewing the True Bias Ogden Cami, and it's going to be sort of a sew along tutorial style video, so do feel free to join in. If you've not already got the pattern, I'll link the details in the description box below for you. So the pattern itself is just a straightforward camisole with spaghetti straps, just literally a front and back piece and some lining pieces also. There aren't any bust darts for this particular pattern, so there's no fitting involved. The fabric I'm going to be using is a viscose fabric, and it's this one here, just so you can see. So it's quite drapey, quite fluid in its movement, but it is still fairly easy to work with. I have made this camisole before in a standard cotton, which I had just left over from a previous project, so I'll show you that here. There we go. So this one does have a little bit more structure to it, but it still sits absolutely fine. And I also have made it in a cotton lawn, and this is a Lady McElroy cotton lawn. This was the first one that I made, so slightly more lightweight to the standard cotton, but it does have more stability obviously than the viscose, but that's quite nice and lightweight for wearing in the summer. And this was a viscose one that I've made previously, so you can see the difference in the drape there. So that one's very comfortable to wear and awesome for the summer. So for the pattern itself, I have actually had to lengthen it slightly, just by 2 inches, to have it sit where I am happy with it on my figure. I'm 5'5", so I've actually lengthened it at the shorten lengthen lines on my pattern and just added a 2-inch section there. I have also added 2 inches to the lining section, but I haven't altered my pattern piece. So all I've done is laid this on the fabric, measured 2 inches down and cut along the fabric at that point. So I will have to change my pattern pieces. So when I come to do it again, it'll be slightly quicker for me. For all of my Ogden camis, I have actually French seamed the side seams, just so it gives it a little bit more stability and hard wearing sort of ness to it, to stop the fabric fraying and just have a neater finish on the inside. I have now got an overlocker, so I may just overlock the insides of this one for speed. I'm not sure, I'll decide on that when I come to that point in the sewing process. So for the rest of this video, you will just be seeing my hands and me at the sewing machine and going through the step-by-step process of making the top up, and then I will come back at the end with the finished garment and show you it on me. I am making a size 4. For your information, my body measurements are a 34-inch bust, 29-inch waist and a 41-inch hip. Now that actually doesn't put me at the size 4 on the pattern. It would probably put me at a size 6 or an 8, I think, if I recall in the past. I did make it in a 6, but it turned out too big for me, so I had to take it in, and the size 4 just fits me perfectly, just so you are aware of the ease in the pattern. So I shall see you at the sewing machine. Okay, so stage 1 of the sew along then is to make sure that you have all your fabric pieces cut out from your pattern. And you firstly need to stay stitch the armholes and the neckline of both the outer and inner pieces. So I'm going to cheat by using this Prim forming tape interfacing. And it's got a little chain stitch running through it, and it's got a little bit of a sticky residue on one side that you iron on. So instead of actually stitching 3/8 of an inch around the neckline, I'm actually going to use this tape. Now I bought this from Guthrie & Garney. It's £5.50 for 5 metres, and this is it here, just so you can see. So I've cut my pieces out already, so I'm literally just going to iron these on. So I just literally line up the chain stitch closest to the edge of the wrong side of the fabric edge there, and then just use my iron to secure it into place. Just using the sort of tip of my iron there, like so. There we go. So you don't need to use, I've got it on sort of a medium heat between the wool and the cotton setting, and I've only just pressed lightly down on it. So you don't need the steam on either. So I shall now do the neckline. So making sure the residue side is down on the wrong side of the fabric. There we go. again, just press it on there. Just a bit of a quicker way to stay stitch the neckline really than sewing it. I know a lot of people don't like to do that bit, I don't especially. So again, just pop that on there. And just use the tip of the iron on there. So if you are just sewing it, you need to do it at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance for the stay stitching, and you stitch from one edge to the centre, stop, and then stitch from the other edge to the centre, so you don't just continue on round, you need to actually meet it in the middle there, and again the outside armhole sections as well. So I should continue doing that on all my pattern pieces, and then come back to the next stage. Okay, so step 2 then, once you've stay stitched your neckline and armholes, you then need to get your strap pieces and then fold them in half, right sides together, like so, and just give them a little press. And then you're going to be stitching along the raw edge, just in a straight line at 1/2 inch. So I'll do that for both my straps, and then that'll be the straps ready to go. Okay, so my straps are stitched at 1/2 inch, and I'm going to just trim the seam allowances using my pinking shears, just to get a smaller seam allowance there. Okay, so that's one, and then the other one, just trim down that seam allowance. You don't have to use pinking shears, you can just use your normal dressmaking shears. Okay, and then we need to now turn them the right side out. Now I'm hoping that this is going to work, because I am going to use a drinking straw and a chopstick. So you basically put the straw into your strap, I think that's how you do it, and then you poke the top end into your drinking straw, like that, and then you should be able to sort of push it over the, let's try that again. So you push your straw in, and then you get to the end, and you just literally push a little bit of the fabric into the straw, and then you should get the fabric going over itself, like so. It will go. I think this, because it's a small strap, it will turn the other way. Oh. There, it will go. There we are, I've done it. So it's just a quicker way than using one of those rouleau loop turners, which I find such a fiddle. So I'll just demonstrate that again. So you put the straw in. I've got a bendy straw, it's a bit rubbish. So you just want a straight straw, really. I think this straw is quite small as well. You could probably get a fatter one. Right, so you put it through the strap, see, all the way in. And then you get to the one end, and you literally sort of fold the fabric into the straw. And then you push, so it starts going over itself. And then should get it so it goes. Oh, this is a bit of a fiddle. It does work, obviously you saw me do it there. So I've got the fabric there, look. And then there you go, it's turned right side out. So you can see it's really quick. I'm just probably using quite a small straw there. Anyway, and then once you've got it turned the right side out, you need to just give it a quick iron to get the strap flat. So you just have to sort of roll it in between your fingers a little bit to get the seam line on the edge, and then you're going to be ironing that flat. It is a little bit of a fiddle. These are very small straps, so just take your time, don't rush, and just get it there. Right, so get my iron, just give that a little press. I don't think my stitching is very straight at the end. It seems a bit thin there, but never mind. And then over here, turned it round so the edge of the fabric. It's on the edge. Come on. There. If you're using cotton fabric, it is a lot easier. Obviously, this is viscose, so it can play up a little bit. One side always looks better than the other as well, I find. So that's one done. There we go. So a nice flat strap. And then, okay, I'll do the same with the other one. I won't put you through the torture of watching me do that again. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so the next stage is, with your straps, you need to have your front cami piece face up, so right side facing up, and then you need to put your strap at the top of one of the shoulders. Now you should have put a dot on your camisole. I haven't bothered because I'm just going to put it straight in the middle. I've done this obviously a few times, so I know it will fit. So yeah, put it in the middle of there. I hope you can see that okay. So I'm just going to put a pin in each side, and then you just need to baste that with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So you're literally just going to baste it across and across there, just basting it. So I'll just pop a pin in the top here. So putting the strap in the middle, like one there and one this side. Put a pin in to secure it, and then baste across using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'll do that and then I shall come back. Okay, so once you've got your straps then basted on, this is the top of my camisole now there, so they are basted on those straps. Just leave them in place like that, and then you need to get your back camisole piece and place it right sides together and pin the side seams. Now, this is where you can choose to do French seams or just use your overlocker or finish it in your preferred method. I am actually going to use my overlocker just for speed. So I'm going to just pin the side seams, so with my pieces right sides together, and then I shall overlock them at 1/2 inch on each side. So here I've got the facing or lining pieces right sides together, and again I'm just going to do the same as what I did with the actual camisole, and that is to pin those side seams together, and I will be stitching them at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Once that's done, what you'll then need to do is to fold a hem at the bottom of the lining, and to do that I just fold it up by 1/4 inch, and then I do another fold at 1/4 inch as well, so it is a double folded hem on the lining section. Okay, so I have done a double fold, and now I'm going to turn it round the right side, facing out, like so. And then I'm literally going to just top stitch around the bottom of this facing piece or lining piece, probably maybe 3/8 of an inch from the edge, just so it'd be just before I can feel that folded edge on the other side, just to keep it nice and neat. So I shall do that and then come back and show you. Okay, so that is now top stitched. There we go on the edge, and it's just caught the edge there by using 3/8 of an inch I've done on that, or you could use just the edge of your sewing machine foot, because mine is about 3/8 of an inch of that. Okay, so the next stage is that you need your camisole top right sides out with the front facing you. Let me just get that flat. So, yeah, the front of the camisole facing you, right side up, so you have the straps here. Let me see if I can adjust the camera, sorry. Bring you back down. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. And then you want to get your lining fabric, and you need to have that, I think, wrong sides out. And basically what you want to do is make sure you've got the front of your lining fabric on the top as well. So you're basically going to put the camisole inside your lining fabric. So literally pull the camisole through inside. So you're basically putting it on like a coat. And then what you want to do is line up all of your edges and notches and pin them all the way around, matching up the side seams as well. So you'll have literally there'll be right sides together and your lining will be pinned to your camisole. So I shall go around and pin all that and show you. Okay, so my lining is now pinned to the camisole, right sides together, so you'll see all the way around I have pinned. And then what you need to do is you need to stitch around the neckline and the armholes and the front. So if you start from a side seam, and you'll be using 1/2 inch seam allowance, so you need to sew from the side seam to the front of the camisole, keeping that 1/2 inch, so you'll stop and pivot across, catching that strap that's in there. Now you might want to pin your strap out of the way so it doesn't get caught. So you then stitch across, and then when you come to the other side of where that strap is on the inside, you'll still be on the 1/2 inch seam allowance and follow it all the way around the neckline. Now when you come to the other side seam, you'll be going to the back of the camisole. And this is where you don't need to sew across the top, because you need to leave a hole here for where the straps are going to be inserted. So you literally need to go from that side seam 1/2 inch up the armhole and then stop just sort of around here. I mean, if you put the dots on, then you'll know where to stop, but I've not, because I don't need to do that. I just sort of roughly know where I need to stop, leaving 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then obviously take your presser foot off and then start sewing down from this edge back down to this middle V-neck, and then up to the other back top section of the shoulder, and again leaving a gap there. So you literally just have 2 holes at the top of the back straps. So I hope that makes sense. If you read the instructions that you've got, it will also explain it fairly clearly for you. So I shall go ahead and do that. So I'm going to start from the side seam, as I always find that's easier, and then go around the front of the camisole first, up to the other side seam, and then remember to stop when you get to the back shoulder, and then take your presser foot off and move over to the other side of it. So you will have a gap in your sleeve there, where you will be inserting your strap at the next stage. Okay, so I shall do that, and I'm just going to do that on my sewing machine. I'm not going to overlock it because I don't want to lose any of the fabric. Okay, I'm just coming up to the section where I'm coming up to the top of the shoulder bit, where you need to leave that hole, that gap. So I'm going to try and show you. Hopefully you'll be able to see this okay. So I'm sewing at 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'll just take it round, and then I'll show you what I do when I get up to the top. So hopefully you'll be able to see. So I'm just literally coming right up to the top now. So I'm going to keep going until I get to sort of where there's a 1/2 inch gap at the top. So I'm going to roughly sort of guess, just check. Okay, a little bit more. There, right. So instead of sewing across, like I would usually, across here, I'm going to stop and just finish the press the button. I can finish the stitch to keep it secure. Okay, and then I'm going to take it out, just snip that off, and then literally start round 1/2 inch seam allowance going down the other side. So I hope you can see that, I hope that makes sense. So I'll just take that pin out. Yeah, so I just start sort of from the top, 1/2 inch seam allowance there, and off I go again. So there will be a gap at the top here in the top of the shoulder, sort of bit where the strap will be inserted at a later point in the sew along. Okay, so I've now got my facing stitched to the bodice, and at the back I've got little holes where the straps will be going through. You just see here, if I can part them, a little hole in there and a little hole the other side. So now you just need to snip into the curves of the top, so when you turn the face into the inside, it just gives a nice flat area where you can press it. So I'm just going to use my dressmaking shears for that. Sometimes I would use my pinking shears, but I can't actually see my stitching line on this very well, so for fear of going through that, I'm going to use my dressmaking shears just to put a few little snips in here and also in the V on both the back and the front. So I'll do that. So I'll just grab my shears. Okay, so I'm just going to snip into the centre V there, quite close to the stitching line, but not right up to it. So you'll see there, I've just literally put a little snip in. And then around these curves here, on the front and the back, I'm just going to put some little triangles, so little notches, just so it will spread out the fabric a lot better when you put it through to the right side. So, like so. So there you'll see I've put some little triangles in. So I'm going to do that across both the front and the back neckline, and then also around the armholes as well, just literally along all the curves. So again, you want to go quite close to the stitching line, but not obviously snipping into your stitches. So just be really careful and just take your time on this bit. You don't want to make a hole in your garment. So that should be enough really. I'll just do I've done the front already, so I'll just do the armhole section. Yeah. Okay, so all my snips are in, those little notches, and now it's time to take the straps and put them through to the other side. So you need the front of the camisole facing you, so it's actually with the fabric right side up, and you'll have the lining fabric wrong side up, and then you need a safety pin for this, and I've just got sort of a quilter's sort of safety pin, but you can use any one that you need. So open that up and put it onto the bottom of your strap, like this, and then you need to make sure that it's flat, so it's all round the right way. And then you're literally going to try and keep it without twisting it, and take it round to the back where you're going to be feeding this safety pin through the hole that is left there. So you see that the safety pin is just poked out, and then you just pull your strap through, so you've got the end there, and this is where you can sort of adjust the length of the strap if necessary. I just always have it so that the end is flush with the top section here. So I'm just going to pull it back down a little bit, because for me, I like to have it just sort of there. Right, so then I take my safety pin off there, and then I'm just going to pin that there. Just check that I've got that right. Yeah, so that shouldn't have twisted, fingers crossed. Should be the same way. It's quite hard to, it's a bit of a fiddle, this bit, I have to say. So sometimes it can be trial and error, but I think that's the right one. I hope it is anyway. I'm going to pin it like that. And there you just then stitch across your 1/2 inch seam allowance again, and that is how you finish the strap insertion. So I'm going to do it on the other side before I do stitch that one. So again, get my safety pin, and then just make sure that strap is completely flat. Put my safety pin through it, like so it's very difficult to show you this section. So I've got it flat, like that, completely flat, and then I'm literally taking it round to the other side without twisting it. So again, I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be the right way around, but I will test it out. So then just feed it through the top, there it is, come out the other side, and just pull it slightly so that I've got the top bit flush with that shoulder. Pull it back down a little bit just to get it right. Okay, and then I'm going to take my safety pin out. There, and that's about flush with it, and then put another pin in, and then I'm going to stitch across 1/2 inch on each side, so 1/2 inch down, so that will be the correct seam allowance. So I shall do that and come back and show you how we pull it through. Okay, so I've stitched my straps in, and then what I would suggest is along the top and just at the corners of these seam allowances here is just trim them. So I'm just going to take the corners off and across the top. It just reduces the bulk that you'd get when turning the straps the right side out. So again, just take the corners off and the top. Get rid of all that rubbish, and do that on the front and the back just so it reduces it. And I have had to re-stitch one of the straps already because I did have it twisted. So then to pull it the right way round, so you lift up the top of the facing or the lining, and then basically pull your straps out like that. And then you want to pop your lining to the inside of your garment. And this is where you will need to give it a good press afterwards. So see if you can see, I'm just going to move you back slightly. Okay, so there, you'll see that the lining is rolling to the outside at the moment, but I've got my straps in, so they are all in, so there's no twists there, so that's correct, as is that one. So now you'll need to take your garment to the sewing machine, to the ironing board, and just give it a sort of a press around the neckline. Try and roll the lining to the inside, and then we will be understitching, but I think if you give it a press first, it might help to do that when we do the understitching, so it just makes it a bit more crisp. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this over to the ironing board now and just give it a press around the neckline and the armholes. Okay, so I've pressed the neckline, so that is looking much, much sharper, and I've done it all the way around the armholes as well, but that will start to try and creep out, so you do need to understitch it. Now, you won't be able to get all the way up to the top of the straps because your sewing machine just won't be able to get up there, so you just have to go as far as you can. So I start on one of the side seams again, and just kind of, I think what you have to do is pull your lining out, and then you need to stitch the seam allowance to the lining, so not to the top, to the lining, literally as close as you can to the seam line. So you've got the seam allowance literally on the lining, and then you stitch as close to that seam line as possible, and that will hopefully stop the lining from turning out to the front. So I'll go over to the sewing machine and do that. So like I say, you won't be able to get all the way up into the straps. You just kind of have to go as far as you can. So I shall be back in a moment. Okay, so that is now all understitched. So I'll try and bring it into you closer so you'll see that I have literally stitched really close to the edge. I haven't gone right up to the top of the strap there because obviously you can't get that under your sewing machine foot. So it is just on the inside of the garment, stitched very close to the edge, and that will stop that lining rolling out there. So I've done that all the way around the armholes as well, so that will especially help on the seam line there. So again, that's stitched. See if you can see that really close to the edge. So that will stop it rolling out. So I've done that all the way around as far as I can go. So then you'll just want to give it another press. So if you turn your garment again to the right side, flip your lining in. There we go. And then if you have any stray threads, just snip those off. So yeah, just make sure you cut all your threads off, because the last thing you want is threads sticking out of your garment. Yeah, and just give that a final press around the neckline to seal the stitches. And then it is literally a case of hemming it. So then the Ogden cami is finished. So I shall give the neckline a quick steam, and then I'll come back to the hemming section with you. Okay, so I've given that a press, that's much better, and now it's just for the hemming. So what I am going to do is actually overlock just the edge of my fabric, just to give it a little bit of stability around the bottom, and then it'll make it easier for me to fold, as this is quite a drapey fabric, and I'm going to do a double fold, so I'll overlock it and then still do a double fold, I think. I'll see when I get to that point, but I'm not going to cut off any of the fabric, literally just going to overlock the edge without using the blade on the overlocker. So I'll just line it up so the blade misses the edge of the fabric, and it'll just overlock that edge. If you don't have an overlocker, you don't need to do this. You can just do the double fold on the inside. You just fold it once and then twice. I think it calls for 1/4 of an inch, and then you fold it another 1/4 of an inch, so you'll be doing 1/2 inch hem. So I'm going to go ahead and just overlock that edge, and then I will be back to do the double fold or single fold, we shall see. Okay, so I'm now going to do my double fold hem. So I've overlocked the edge, as you can see there. I have it right sides facing out still, so it's whichever your preference is really. I always do mine with the garment right side facing out, and then I just flip the front out of the way and start on the back. And then I basically just fold it over that 1/4 of an inch. I can roughly guess how much that is now, and then I will just go along and press that into place, and then once I've pressed that into place, I will then fold it again, and then press the second fold into place as well, and then pin it, and then I'll be top stitching around the edge again like I did on the facing piece. So I shall go ahead and press that double fold up, and then I shall come back. Okay, so I've done a double fold and I've just pinned it, and now I'm going to top stitch it around the bottom, again about 3/8 of an inch away from the edge, because I think that will sit right near the fold on the inside. So I'll go ahead and do that, show you, and then that will be the garment completed, and then I shall get to the trying on stage tomorrow when it's daylight, and then you'll be able to see it on me and how it fits. So I shall be back in a moment. Okay, so there we are, all hemmed at the bottom, and now the garment is finished. So I shall show it to you on me tomorrow. But yes, really happy with how it's turned out. So far so good. So I shall see you in the morning when I have it on. Hi, back again. So here I am with the finished Ogden cami then. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I'm really sorry that there was that interference at the beginning of the video, and I do now realise what that was. It is due to the fact that my neighbour was actually jet washing his car at the time, and every time he switched the jet wash on, it interfered with my microphone. So I'm really sorry about that. I'll know in future not to film when he's doing that. Also you'll notice that I had to do a little bit of a voiceover as well on a section of the video, and that was because I thought I was recording the bit which I was talking and showing you, and unfortunately I wasn't. So the bit that I filmed was the bits that I wasn't supposed to be filming, so if that makes sense. So luckily I've salvaged the tutorial by doing that voiceover, because otherwise it would have meant me redoing the whole thing, and I just don't have the time, unfortunately. So it's not a perfect tutorial, but I do hope that you have enjoyed it and have been able to follow along okay. So here it is then, my finished Ogden cami. This one has actually turned out just slightly bigger than my other ones on me, and I think it must be the drape of the fabric. Even though I have done it in a viscose previously, I think this one must just have a little bit more give in it. It's just slightly big around the armholes on me there, as you can see it's a little bit gapey. It's doesn't feel massive, so I might leave it like that, I'm not sure, or I might take it in just down the side seams by a 1/4 of an inch, and to do that I'll literally just turn the top inside out, lift the facing up and go down the whole of the side by 1/4 of an inch, just to bring it in a little bit And actually I do think on one of my other ones I made the mistake of doing 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, so one of those does fit slightly closer on me, but it's not too tight, if you know what I mean. Yes, so I'm really happy with, anyway, the way it's turned out, and I hope you were able to follow along okay, and the step-by-step sort of guide worked well for you if you have managed to make one. It does come together really quickly, as you have seen, so it's a great stash buster, as I've only used 1 metre of fabric for this Ogden cami. I'll stand back just so you can see the length where it comes on me, just to remind you I'm 5'5", and I added 2 inches to the bodice, and also I added 2 inches, I think it was, to the facing piece as well. So I'll stand back. Okay, so it just sort of comes to mid-hip area on me, like that. Yeah, I'm happy with where that sits on me. You know, it's comfortable. It goes really well actually with my mustard Blackwood cardigan. So you can see that that pairs up really nicely with the mustard that's in there. But I think I would like to make a navy blue one to go with it. I think that would look really nice. What I will say about the Ogden cami is the front and the back are very similar, even though the V at the back is slightly deeper. When it's on the hanger, it's not obviously obvious which is the front and the back. So I have purchased some labels by Kylie in the Machine, and these ones say, yes, I made it, and I bought those from Crafty So-and-So in Leicester. They are £5.50 and you get 8 woven labels in there, and I'm going to pop one in the back of this, and I will literally just stitch it onto the facing at the back, and I'll put them on my others as well. So it's just easier to see which is the back and the front. So like I say, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. That's all there really is to say about this top. Please do like and subscribe, and leave me any feedback about the tutorial. I don't do them very often, I don't have a lot of time, but I do enjoy doing them. But like I say, I'm not a perfectionist on this type of thing, so it's not perfect. But thank you ever so much for watching and joining in. See you soon. Bye.